Happy Thursday. I'm pretty sure it's Thursday. If it's not, I'm here on the wrong day. Everybody panic. Hi, it's Jem Hawkes here from Jessie James Beads, and today we're talking Frida, the Magical Monthly Mystery Bead Box. Always get that wrong. There's a bunch of letters and I don't really know which order they're supposed to be in. Hopefully you'll forgive me. This month that we're working with right now, it's dated May 2023. It's an absolute stunner. Really, really beautiful and really, really inspirational. I am a huge lover of art across a whole number of different years and genres, from Van Gogh all the way through to some quite modern art. I absolutely love people expressing themselves. My chosen medium is jewellery, and I know that there's lots and lots of you here with me today who also love to express themselves through jewellery. Now, the Frida box is absolutely stunning. The colours, the shapes, the textures, a really, really rich collection of inspiration. I want to give you just a really quick look. I understand many of you have already seen this, but for me, I just want to share a little bit of what the gloriousness of this box entails. Let's pop down to the board, and then we can have a look at some of the goodies. I have got Annette, Melanie, Cherie, Deborah and Melanie. I've got two Melanies with slightly different spellings, both in today. How are you, my darlings? I hope that you are having a beautiful time, no matter what you've been up to today. So we are working with the Magical Mystery Bead Box. See, the word monthly wasn't in there, but I just popped it in, so, you know, it does come out monthly. It could be there, but then there would be an extra Annette says, I haven't seen it, so I'm glad you're sharing all of it. I will show you all of the bits that I haven't yet used, and I am wearing the jewellery that I've made from this month's box as well, so I'll chat through that with you as well. Melanie's in from the beautiful free state of Florida. Annette says, happy to see that we're sharing it. Bridget's in. Celia is in from a very warm Bolton. It's quite toasty roasty in the middle of England too. We're having a beautiful day. Beautiful colours, textures and ideas to work with. Now I just want to show you some of the bits and bobs from the box. So you had a length probably double what this is, slightly more than double what this is. I'm wearing it as a choker because I really like to head back to decades past. I used to wear a lot of chokers back in the 80s and 90s, and this is such a pretty piece. So at the end of the show, if you still wish to see it, I'll pop off my own jewellery that I've made from this month's box and you can take a gander. That's the first thing I wanted to show you. It feels kind of Swedish to me. It's got that sort of royal blue and the gold, as well as those leafy designs. Absolutely adorable, beautiful box that we're working with today. Another very, very striking strand, Casa Azul. Beautiful, beautiful colours. I do enjoy these almost lily-like bead caps, and I don't know how you describe it, but they're hollow in the centre, and you can have lots of different directions of wire or beading material going through them. Hi Hazel, how are you today? Stunning colours, absolutely stunning colours on that strand. I am a real sucker for things like this. These metallic beads that have an almost antiqued finish to them, some of my favourite parts of the box. Now you did get this utterly stunning chain, and I've used this to make my asymmetric piece from a couple of weeks ago when we were talking asymmetry with the weekly challenge. If you've not seen anything about the challenge, do head on over and see what we've got going on. If you're in a jewellery making slump, it's really nice to have somebody say, hey, this week we're going to use memory wire or we're going to use elastic. That's this week's challenge, and it just gives you a little bit of a poke and a point to get back on with some jewellery making. This is a gorgeous piece, absolutely beautiful, vibrant, I imagine enamelled, but don't quote me. Lovely chain. Again, that's one of the pieces that I have used. You've got shell disc beads as well. Beautiful jungle scene in there, as well as a sugar skull Frida. All good fun. This is what we're going to be working from, and this came with the, well, most of it comes from the Frida with Picasso earrings collection. It sure is pretty. It is a lovely strand. Brenda's in from Dallas and Kimberly's popping in to say hello. Hello, my darlings. So I have obviously used some of these pieces. I cannot wait to make some earrings with these chandelier details. And this is the style of project, the style rather of piece that we're going to be working with today. But I've just thought I would absolutely 100% wire that in. In fact, that's exactly what I'm going to do a little bit later on. We're also going to be using one of these gorgeous 3D roses today. We have this, I don't know if it's a faux turquoise or quite what the material is made of, but it's really lovely. Got drill hole all the way through, so they're really handy to have. Not to mention, last from this box but not least, this huge verdigris green hued heart frame. Again, that's something that you can take your little beads and you can wire them all the way along. So that's an absolute treasure. Let's pop that over to one side. Self-portrait with monkeys. I'm quite a fan of monkeys. So there's some beautiful metallics in there. I particularly like these drops that have the golden tone around the edge and then that amber tone in the centre. Put a bead in the middle or a rivoli. That's such a good idea. Not everybody is into seed beading, and I see a lot of people very cleverly capturing their rivolis with seed beads or with small crystals. So yes, you could very easily pop a rivoli in the middle of that one and it would look stunning. So that one is called Self-Portrait with Monkeys. I adore the attention to detail with the labelling on these as well. The frame, this is where another piece of our material for today came from. We've got a gorgeous cerise flower from this collection. I think it came from this box. Once I've dismantled it, I don't really know. Lots of fun in there. Adore these, absolutely adore. There's almost a citrine or a golden tone layered over the top of that crystal, and you've got so much more besides. Lots and lots to work with in that one. I'm not going to spend hours on this. I know many of you have already watched it, but I do want to share. I can't help it. So the two Fridas, which is a portrait. Absolutely stunning. Now these are among some of my favourite faceted crystal bead shapes. That is stunning. I could gaze into those. And again, that could sit quite nicely in the centre of the flower like a giant dewdrop. When I was a small girl, many, many thousands of years ago, there was a flower that grew in our garden and it collected dew in the centre, and we used to imagine that it was fairy mirrors. I don't quite know how accurate the name of that plant is, but there we have it. So much to work with, including this lava-inspired bead. I don't know what the material is. I don't get a breakdown, but they're lots and lots of fun. We've got shell triangles, and having shapes to work with that you're not used to is again something that can inspire you to do more and to do differently. And by doing more and doing differently, we learn and we stretch our abilities. I love it. I have 3 monkeys. Oh my goodness, what type of monkeys are they? Sarah, Mia and Abby. Are they children monkeys or are they ones with tails? Either way, give them a lot of love from me. Oh, what a beautiful colour that bead is. Oh my gosh. It's a matte finish, 2-tone, faceted rondelle. That's very, very grown up and gorgeous. So let's pop these out of the way. Would you like to see the earring we're going to make? Here we are. So with this design, I wanted to keep the wire work fairly limited to make it so as everybody can have a go on this one. My mat's on the wonk. Let's straighten that up. That's better. So a simple design today. You'll need significantly less than 12 inches of wire, but I have grabbed myself a 12-inch strand because that is what I had on my desk. So let's have a quick gander at what we're going to use in this project. Let's tip those out of the little heart dish. We're going to be using one of these gorgeous 6-petaled flowers. They're so 3-dimensional. Really, really beautiful. Ah, they're your nieces. Well, they could well be. A little bit monkey-like in their antics, I suppose. We're also going to be using one of these fabulous, again, really deep and 3D. I'm going to call it a rose. If you want to disagree with me, feel free. I am not a botanist. I'm also picking one of these bright and vibrant bicones. Now, it's a really feisty golden yellow colour, which I think tones beautifully with the metals. I've chosen to work with a copper wire because, again, it's what I have available right now. It's 18 gauge, medium temper, so your German style, and that's a round wire. You could probably get away with using something closer to 8 inches of wire for this project, but I'm starting with 12 inches and we'll take it from there. I also have a simple head pin that has been turned into an earring finding. You could use whichever earring finding you desire. You can always pop a jump ring in if the orientation, once you set that together, doesn't sit right for you. Hello Anne, welcome all the way from California. How are you today, sweet pea? Konnichiwa, my friend. So I'm using this fabulous cerise flower droplet. It's created from very, very beautiful fabric. It's not heavy in any way, shape or form. So even though these earrings are a couple of inches in drop, if you don't want to add the big flower, there were other choices. Let me just grab that box back. In the frame, you have some teachy little flowers in both a golden tone and a more peachy hibiscus colour. Oh gosh, you've even got little blue ones as well. So you can play around with the colours, the drops and everything to your heart's desire. Doing well in the hot weather, says Anne. Well, I'm happy that you are, sweetheart. My asthma again is being a little bit of a sausage. Hi from Amarillo in Texas, from Avonda. Welcome, darling. Good to have your company. Cherie says it's pretty. How can we not make pretty jewellery with such a pretty box? I love the flowers. I've tried to channel a little bit of Frida today. Here we go. So let's have a look at putting this up. Is that too light in that corner? Does that bleach it out? No, that's okay. So for this project to work as best as it possibly can, what we're going to need to do is really warm that wire. Now, I'm never going to ask you to get a flamethrower or a torch out to warm your wire through. The warmth that you hold in your body is more than adequate. Colleen says it's pretty. I love your teaching. That's so kind of you. Thank you. Cherie says I really like this box. Honestly, I love every box that comes to me. I adore the seaside themed ones because it means I get to make cheeky little earrings like this. So this was from last month. Really simple, layering up, bits from the chain that I disassembled, one of the shell discs, and I adore these charms so much. Always just a joy to work with. However, this Frida box really got me thinking. I'm just popping that back in the holder. It really made me want to go all Frida. So hopefully you will enjoy today's absolutely beginner friendly tutorial. Even if you're a little bit worried about working with wire, we're going to get through this together. The box is gorgeous, Colleen. I totally agree. Avonda says, love watching you, sweet lady. You're so kind. Thank you, my darlings. So let's make this wire super warm. And I'm going to do that by grabbing hold of one end, and I'm really working the first kind of 2/3 at the moment. This is the bit I want to focus on. I want to get that super warm. Now what we're doing when we're warming our wire is we're softening those copper core molecules, and they stay soft for a little while, and then when they finish cooling down, and dependent on where you are in the world and how warm it is, that can take sort of 24 hours or even longer if it's really toasty. Pop that on the back of your hand and you will feel that that's roasty toasty. That's caused by the friction and the heat of your own body. So that's now nice and soft and warm, and that's what we want it to be like. So we're going to start by threading on that gorgeous rose bead all the way through. And you'll find that there's absolutely no problem utilising those drill apertures. Cherie says, anything to do with the sea or flowers, my favourites. I'm with you there, darling. So as I said, you could probably get away with working with about 8 inches of wire. I've cut a length of 12 inches because it means that I can show you how much we've got left at the end. So I've set that bead in the middle of the 8 inches. So the first sort of 2/3. I can do maths. I can't do maths. I'm hopeless at maths. The first 2/3 of the wire is where I'm centralising my bead. So you've got more over on the one end, and this is where we've super warmed it. And what we're going to do is to make sure that we bring that wire back away, sharply. I'm using my fingers because I'm always very, very respectful of the beads. I don't want anything to become scratched in any way. I want it to look its absolute best. What you'll find once you've warmed that wire through, even if it's a relatively hard temper, this is a medium temper, it's a German style wire, you'll find that you can just use your hands. I have arthritis in one of my wrists and a couple of my fingers too, so I feel very confident that most of you will be able to achieve that move with your fingers. It's just safer for your beads. So what we're going to do now is line up our flower. Now I liked the aspect of having the petals top and bottom, so 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. If you want, you can sit this diamond shaped frame in the V between the petals. What you'll struggle with then is the flower will be just sitting down a little bit from this gap. And I found that I made it that way to see what it looked like, and I didn't think it looked as neat. That's why I've tried to go longitudinally, big word for the day, sorry about that, all the way through along the spur that you see running up the centre of that flower. So from one tip to another. And you'll see also that there are holes helpfully arranged in this bead. So you can see that there's an inner hole and an outer hole moving all the way around, going outwards on each of those petals. And I'm going to aim for the outer hole on this design. It just means that the bead will sit really nicely. So I'm taking the long end, pushing that through one of those outer holes. You can see the hole really neatly shining against the white of the background. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So you may need to just give that a little bit of a wiggle. If you haven't got it set up in exactly the same orientation, you can just take your time, don't force anything, and push that all the way through. Now, in order so that things don't get caught in your earrings, whether you've got long hair or shorter hair, you may wear other jewellery or scarves, having the least amount of possibility for catching things is where I want to be when I'm making jewellery. So I'm going to push that all the way home so that that flower bead sits right deep down inside that gorgeous 6-petaled, beautiful floral metal design. So I'm going to take the long end. You can see that's come through that outer of the 2 rows of holes. I'm just going to pull that upwards for now. I'm just going to push that firmly so that it sits neatly behind the upright spur or spar, I don't know what the word is actually, on that open filigree petal work. Let's do the same on the other side. And that is as much of the difficult side of wire work as we're going to see today. Absolute beginner's project. What I need to do is glue this mat down. So you can see in positioning the wire thus, you don't see the wire, you're only looking at the spars on each of those petals, and then it will seem like the whole thing is just suspended magically. So we're going to add a little loop, an open simple loop down at the bottom into which we can put our flower drop. Now, if you want to, one of the benefits of using an open and closable loop here, and you'll see that I've just left that slightly open. Before I was to sell that on or gift it, I would make sure that that's completely closed up. The reason I've left it slightly open is because it gives you the opportunity to switch out your flowers. So you can mix and match the colour of your tassel. And an open and closable loop in a medium temper wire will happily open and close several times, upwards of 6 or 7 times I would say. I don't think it will be a problem for it to last through that. So let's create that open and closable loop down on the shorter end of our wire. Just going to give that one quick smooth through. And because this is the face of the design, the front of the design, what I want to do is bend the wire at the tip of the lower petal, and I want to bend that forwards. Doesn't need to be at completely 90 degrees, just sort of coming out at sort of 45, 50 degrees. And then we're going to create a round form. Now, if you have decided that you definitely just want to stay with that colourway and you don't want the possibility of changing it out, you can mix things up and do a wrapped loop once you've added your flower into position. Now I'm going to show you how to do a wrapped loop up at the top. So at the base, I'm just going to do a simple loop. I appreciate that sometimes this is a little bit simple and some of you want a bit more of a challenge. Well, today it's too hot to be super challenged and I wanted everybody to be able to make this. So I've rotate my round nose pliers until I get the first half of that round form, pop my pliers back in, and then draw that tail all the way around until it crosses over at the tip of that flower. So it's touching the path of the wire that's crossed before it. So if I flip that over in the opposite direction, what we're going to do now is a nice little snicked, a nice little nip, making sure that you're only cutting the tail of the wire away and you're not accidentally trimming anything else, because that's annoying. It's all undoable at this stage. You can simply cut the bead and the filigree flower away if anything does go wrong. Nothing to fret about, but just make your life easy. And what we're going to do is give that a really hearty squish. Now all I'm doing is making sure that it's completely flat. It's sitting in 2 dimensions. You may need that to sit slightly more forwards. Give that a nice squish and then we'll open that up and pop our flower drop into position. Now you'll notice that I open and close a simple loop only by using half of the available loop. So we've got the open side and I make the manoeuvre over half of that loop. Hello Gabriella, welcome. I hope you're having a beautiful day. So there's our simple loop down at the bottom in which we've added our flower. Now if you want to make these real shoulder grazers, before you make that loop shape, you do have the option to grab any of the beads from the Frida box and extend that drop down. These are probably about as long as I want to wear today. It's too hot to be fussy. There we go. So we've got our loop down at the base. We're going to add in a little more detail up at the top. So if I pop that down into a slightly darker place, you can choose to bring the diamond shaped frame so that it sits at the top of the flower. But I liked the idea of it crossing behind, so either or. I'm going to just sit that down for now at the top of the flower behind that lovely sort of golden bronzy colour. And what we're going to do is just put the one side of that diamond shape through to begin with. So I haven't taken it through the second side because what we need to do is add in my bead of choice. Now my bead of choice is this beautiful feisty yellow bicone, but you can go for whichever one you want. Now you can find a bead that fits exactly in the frame and, as I say, just sit it up on top of the flower. I liked the idea of getting a little bit more textural. A lot of Frida's work is quite texture oriented. So what I will do here is I will very gently pull that wire back a little bit, slide the frame down behind the flower, and then I'll push that slightly forwards again, just so that the tip of the flower is what's magically supporting that gorgeous bead. So what we also need to do is just retract. Now we've got the bead set all the way back up through, and I know that if I just give that a very gentle squish, everything is sitting where it's supposed to. So when I make earrings, I will always make them bit by bit. So I will get 2 lengths of wire and I will do 1 small move at a time on both sides. And in that way, I can aim for symmetry. So if you're making asymmetrical earrings, as we did earlier on in our beautiful challenge that's going all the way through the summer months, then you can obviously go for something completely different. Now, symmetry doesn't have to be all about size. You can, of course, make 1 long earring, 1 short earring. You can make 1 with chain, 1 with wire. You can have them just be 2 completely different things, or you can switch out your colour tones. So you could entirely change things up. Now, as we mentioned earlier, one of these, where's that other box gone? Hang tight, folks. Let me grab the other box. You could have one of those sitting in the middle instead. And again, if you're using crystals and you're bending wire at either end of those drill apertures, do that by hand, don't use tools, and always go slowly. Super warm the wire first and everything will work beautifully. So you could have one with the blue and white and make a really frosty cold colourway. And then you could do the other one with the reds and the oranges and the yellows of the gold matching. Let's just pop this back out of the way so I don't send it flying. Here we go. So we're going to finish off at the top with a wrapped loop. Now these are the only earring findings that I had in my stash today. So what we're going to do is a wrapped loop that is closed up. Let's get part the way through that. So what I'm going to do here above that little golden diamond shape is I'm going to support with my chain nose flowers. Chain nose flowers? Chain nose pliers. It's warm, okay? And I'm going to turn the wire sideways at 90 degrees. The reason I use my chain nose pliers is because it gives me this little distance between the top of that frame and where the bend occurs, and that means I've got enough space to wrap my wire around. This is key, one of the areas that asymmetry occurs, perhaps when you don't want it. So if you make these two bits side by side, you can always take a measurement and work out if that's going to be the right size for you. Kim is here, sorry late. Flower earrings are beautiful. Thank you so much for your comment. That's delightful. I appreciate you. Don't worry, you can always watch us on catch up or later on when it hits the blog and YouTube. So what we're going to do now is finish off with a wrapped loop. And what I will do when I'm part the way through that wrapped loop, so here we go, first side, using those round nose pliers to create the shepherd's hook shape. And then take that wire all the way around, squish that down neatly, and you've got yourself a nice little loop up at the top. Now, one of the things that happens with earrings is that your loops are a different size. When they're on the other side of the head, it is less important because you can't really see it. However, when they're on a display stand, if you sell your jewellery, it's kind of nice that they look similar, so take your time. If you wanted to make the wrapped loop down at the base, as we discussed earlier on, now would be the time that you add in your flower. So you just slide that down from the end and allow that to hit the camera, obviously. Allow that to sit inside the loop before you perform the next section of the tutorial. Another thing you can do is to create an empty wrapped loop, as I am doing now, and then use a jump ring or a split ring if you prefer. Let's just pop this up for a second. When I'm creating wrapped loops, I'm going to be supporting that circular form. I'm giving it quite a hearty squish, but I don't want to press down where the wire crosses over at the neck. Now, I do, as expected, have quite a lot of wire available on the end. So to make it easier to show you, rather than going in and out vision like so, I'm just going to trim it down to around about 1.25 inches. And you can bring that tail all the way around. Anne says I use bail making pliers. If you have your bail makers, let me just grab those. I love these. I use them every single day that I'm making jewellery. You can decide which pin size you want to use for which part of your project, and then your earring findings will always be the same shape and size. Good job, Anne. Well done. They are a very worthwhile investment and I wouldn't be without them. So we're going to continue to wrap this tail around that little bit of a neck, pulling that tightly and firmly into position. And what I would aim to do with earrings is to try and get the same number of visible coils. So I have 3 visible coils at the top here. I've got 3 visible coils at the top here. So I do want to just tighten up those coils slightly before I spin over to the rear of the design and just trim that last little tiny bit away. Let's put that over there into my scrap melt pot. So in order to get the safest, smoothest finish, we're just going to tidy up that last little bit by rotating the pliers around on top of that cut end. And then all we all need to do is slip on your favourite style of ear wire. I only had silver ones, but I'm not overly worried about mixing metals. I quite enjoy mixed metals in my jewellery designs. So there you have my earrings, courtesy of the Magical Mystery Bead Box from May 2023, featuring Frida. I hope that you've enjoyed that. I did say if you wanted me to show you the jewellery that I'm wearing here, I can pop this off my body and onto the mat so you can see some of the other things that I made with this sweet of gorgeous beads and materials. The chain, I'm just going to pop you back down while I take this off. Thank you for sharing. Absolutely gorgeous, so adorable, absolutely gorgeous. You're all absolutely delightful, lovely, kind, wonderful, beautiful souls, and I appreciate you. So I adore this chain. I'm going to call it Homer's Donut Chain for no reason whatsoever. Let me just take the choker off and show you that one first. Here we go. So for the choker, if you're seamstresses, and I am not, trust me, if you are seamstresses, then you can always put backing material onto this. This is a lovely ribbon, and you do get 4 ribbon cord endings, and I added in a couple of beads at either end just to make the connection part of the project a little bit more interesting and fun. You could simply use split rings, however you prefer. And then I just made a double loop on one end and the world's most simple J-hook clasp on the other end. Clasp. I can say words. Not all of them are in English. And then just in the centre, I stacked my daisy spacers. I love stacking daisy spacers. You can get them to sit so that they're all at different angles. It looks really a little bit steampunk in a way. And then I made this cute little flower doodle to add into the centre. So there's one of the pieces that I made with the Frida box. Let's just bring that chain down, and then I'll take off the asymmetrical one. If I can find the clasp, I can't remember what I used. Wouldn't it have been sensible to use a quick release one? Hold on, I'm going to spin it round, talk among yourselves. I think I used a J-hook. There we go. So you may have seen some of this already on social media. Let's pop that over the top. Asymmetry comes hard to me. I like everything to be super, super symmetrical. But on this piece, I went for total asymmetry. Love using split rings. They're really, really handy. You should make your donut chain with cups in between. Oh yes, that would be so cool. Brenda says, sorry, I meant to say the little details. Wonderful tips in making these earrings. I see what you mean. Bless your heart, Brenda. That's such a kind thing to say. Thank you ever so much. So my asymmetry, the take was that down at the centre, I just have lots and little bits. I used a chain reaction and cut it up. I added some of the beads from the different boxes that we have in the May Frida box. Added one on the end there. That amber and gold one is gorgeous. Anne says, I had a hard time making asymmetrical. Did the filigree come with the Frida box? Ba-dam! Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You get 4 of them. Not only that, but you get chandeliers, which I'm going to later on, I'm going to smash that together. Well, I'm going to wire it gently together with beads, but you know what I mean. You also get this most divine filigree verdigris heart. Now I can see adding beads, you could add resin, you could add miracle wrap. I don't know what it's called stateside, but you could do so much with that. Or just use it as a heart. It's stunning. This donut chain, though, is really, really glorious. And was it Melanie who has 3 little monkeys for nieces? Well, you get a couple of monkeys. You also get hummingbirds, which is one of the things I'm working on at the moment. Haven't got any with me. Naturally enough, they're in the other room. Let me just get you back up. I'm jewelleryless, apart from my earrings. Gotta love earrings, right? One size fits all. You don't have to guess. Earrings are a fabulous gift. So are pendants. But then, you know, so is the gift of creativity. And that, for me, is what you get in your box of magicalness. Magical Mystery Bead Box. This month that I'm working with right now was the Frida Kahlo box. At the head of today's show, I showed you what some of the projects are that are available within the box. So many gorgeous bead boxes, so many gorgeous strands, not to mention, whoop, whoop, so beautiful. So many wonderful things. Jem, I didn't get to tell you we made these last night. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Absolutely fantastic. Check out what Sarah is telling you. She's got some news. So head down to comments, have a look, see what Sarah's got to tell you, and she will give you the very new news. So this is today's Frida earrings. They're long, but they're not so long that they're uncomfortable. It's about as long as I want to wear earrings in this heat. I will check back with you later. If you have any questions for me, leave me a comment, tag me if you can, and I will pop back on and try to answer any questions you have. Other than that, I will be back in a couple of... Did I make my hair bow? This... I'm going to look a wreck taking it out, but yes, this is fractions of very, very cheap ribbon tied onto a very, very cheap... Let me show you. It's just a simple knot in the middle, and they're all clustered together. And it's such a lovely colour. A little bit of organza ribbon cut with slanty ends on them, and then just all squished up together. Not very glamorous way of putting it, but I like it. It made me feel a little bit like I was channeling Frida. Have yourself the most fantastic beady day, and I look forward to be back with you very, very soon. I'll be here on Jessie James Beads again in 2 weeks, I want to say. You look after yourselves, and I will catch you very, very soon. Bye for now. Mwah.